How Daisy Stole Halls. Every Coug down in Cougville liked Halls a lot, but Daisy, who lived just north of Cougville, did not. Daisy hated Halls the whole Hall season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be her head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps her shoes were too tight. But we all know the most definite reason is that Tom annoyed her all school season. Whatever the reason, Tom or her shoes, she stood there on Hall's Eve, hating the Cougs, staring down from her cave with a sour daisy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For she knew every Coug down in Cougville, drinking from their coasters, were busy now, hanging their bleacher posters. And they're hanging their posters, she snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Hall's. It's practically here. And she growled with her fingers, nervously drumming, I must find a way to stop Halls from coming. For tomorrow she knew all the Coug students and boasters would wake up bright and early to finish their bleacher posters. And the stress. That's the one thing she hated, the stress. And the Cougs, young and old, would get together and work, and they'd work. They'd work on the Nemo football game and paint the three shark beasts, which was something Daisy could not stand in the least. Then they'd do something she liked least of all. Every Coug down in Cougville would go and look at each other's halls. The more Daisy thought about this endless Halls ring, the more she thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, last year I put up with it now. I must stop Halls from coming. But how? Then she got an idea. An awful idea. Daisy got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what I'll do. Daisy laughed in her throat, and she made a quick Dello hat and coat. She chuckled and clucked, what a great trick, even though it was mellow. With this hat and coat, I'll look just like Dello. All I need now is someone to help me pull the supplies through, so I'll need someone who's just as stressed as me too. So she called Nerissa and told her everything that needed to be said, so the plan was fresh in her head. Then she loaded up some bags and some old empty sacks and hitched them to Nerissa's back. And Daisy said, Giddy up, and started down to the Cougs' halls, where they'd just done their last check on them all. All the halls were dark, no noise in the air, as the Cougs thought they'd be safe without care. When she came to the sophomore hall, she hissed, This is stop number 1, and walked in, empty bags in fist. She slid right in and stopped, intrigued for a moment or two, but if Dello had made these, then they had to go too. She looked at the walls, the paintings hung in a row. Reese's Hall, she grinned, is the first thing to go. And she slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around his whole hall and took everything present. Styrofoam, PVC pipes and fittings and knittings, long skewers, fishing lures, and newspaper trimmings. And she slunk to Emma's hall, quick as a flash. Everything was gone, just as fast. Stuffed inside and thrown outside all, it was now time to take Caitlin's hall. She grabbed her haul and started to shove it out the door, when she heard a sound like the grunt of a boar. She turned around fast and saw a small Coug, little Tom, whose maturity level was no more than 2. Daisy had been caught by this tiny Coug stutter, who'd come back to Del Campo to retrieve his peanut butter. He stared at Daisy and said, Dello, why are you taking Caitlin's hall, why? But you know, that Daisy was so smart and so slick, she thought up a lie, and she thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little mot, the fake Dello lied, Caitlin's hall wasn't painted on one side, so I'm taking it to my workshop. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And this fib fooled Tom. She pouted the stutter and then sent him back with his peanut butter. With little Tom back home and in bed, Daisy could now take the rest of the class halls ahead. And then out the door went that liar, with nothing left but some hooks and some wire. And she did the same thing to the other class halls, leaving nothing but specks of paint on the walls. It was just past dawn, all the Cougs still abed and still a snooze, when she packed up her sled. She packed up the ribbings, the wrappings, the trimmings, and the trappings. A few dozen feet up the side of the gym, she rode her load to the top to drop it without a whim. Pooh-hoo to the Cougs, she was daisy-ishly humming. They're finding out now that Halls isn't coming. They're arriving at school, and now I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a moment or two. Then all the Cougs will cry boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned Daisy, that I simply must hear. So she paused, and she put her hand to her ear. And she did hear a sound. It started low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. The sound was happy. It couldn't be so, but it was happy. She stared down at Cougville. The Daisy popped her eyes. Then she shook. What she saw was a shocking surprise. Every Coug down in Cougville, the tall and the small, was singing their class songs without any halls at all. She hadn't stopped Halls from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it just came the same. And the Daisy, with her feet not knowing where to go, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without wire, it came without skewers, it came without pipes, fillers, and lures. And she puzzled for an hour until her puzzler was sore. and Daisy thought of something she hadn't thought of before. Maybe Halls doesn't come from a store. Maybe Halls means perhaps just a bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Coogville, they say, Daisy's hate for Tom lessened by 3. No, it's still the same. But nonetheless, she whizzed her load through the bright morning light, giving classes back their hall supplies, showing her might. And she herself, stabbed Tom with a box cutter. The end.